see?
Yes. Good evening, everybody. Welcome to the Parks and Quality of Life Council Committee meeting. Today is December 20th. We are here in Council Chambers. It is 5 p.m. And folks are more than welcome to join us here in Council Chambers to watch the meeting. However, public comment is not accepted at our Council Committee meetings. Folks can also watch remotely or can call in or listen to the meeting using a phone number or view us on YouTube. Tonight we have some fun wrap-up discussions. First, we're going to be hearing from our guest speaker, Liz Stenning with the Downtown Everett Association, to share more about the great work that they've done over 2023 with the downtown area. And then we'll be hearing from Dan Ernessy about the development activities annual update for 2023 across the city and prospects coming up in 2024. So if I could hand it over to Liz Stenning to take it from here, that'd be great.
Thank you for having me. Nice to see you. So I'm going to run through a presentation of some work we've been doing that's focused on supporting our businesses. And while we do a lot with the Downtown Everett Association, I might be here a little longer than an hour if I went through all the things. So I'm going to keep this a bit focused. So again, I'm Liz Stenning, Executive Director with the Downtown Everett Association, and we're going to be talking tonight about some survey results we did this year around what people would like to see in the downtown around businesses, and talk to you a little bit about what we're doing with supporting businesses. So you may or may not have seen our vision. I'll go ahead and read it out loud. Everett's downtown core is the hub of public life in Snohomish County. Its energetic streets are home to an innovative business community, engaged residents, and delighted visitors who experience economic opportunity, a unique historic context, and a vibrant dining, arts, and entertainment culture. And that is what we aspire to and what we hope to see downtown now and in the future. And it just so happens that dining, arts, and entertainment is also our acronym, DEA. So focusing a little bit on business support. In the last couple of years, we've been really trying to work with our businesses and trying to bring more businesses downtown. As you may know, historically, we were very much focused on cleaning the downtown, managing the parking garage, which we still do, but we now have some more funding sources, particularly through our Main Street tax credit program and being a Main Street community, which has allowed us to do more. So just running down a few things here, we keep a database of available properties and businesses. So if we have a business that's interested in moving into downtown, we could actually pull up a list, and we could also even take them on a tour of downtown. We are working on a new business toolkit or a welcome guide for businesses that are just moving here. And we actually just sent it off to the printer, so coming soon is coming soon. We started an entrepreneur education series in the last couple of years. This has been focused on anything from helping businesses navigate their cash flow to social media, marketing, and we have a variety of things planned for this coming year too. We went ahead and bought our first pair of giant scissors and ribbon. So that was something we had been wanting to do for some time, and we had enough businesses opening, and we went online, found them, and it's been really great. We approach it like, hey, if you want us to be there, great, we'll be there. But just show up with the scissors, or we can help invite people to the party, and however you'd like to do it. So this shows when Burkett's expanded their additional storefront. We've also been working, as you know, on some storefront grants. We'll talk a little bit more about that. We work with businesses on events and promotions, making sure they know when the events are coming and what's happening. We advocate for small businesses. This year, we also invested in some new software data that allows us to get a better sense of visitor foot traffic in the downtown. And this year, and as in years past, we work closely with city staff. We worked a lot with Dan Ernessy, and then this past year, we've been working more with Tyler Chisholm, amongst other people. So I'm going to talk a little bit about a survey that we worked on this past year, and you have a printout in front of you. So because we are part of the Washington Main Street Network, we're able to get grants as they come up. There's only 40 organizations like us around the state. So we applied for a grant to work with a consultant called Downtown Professionals Network. They work with Main Street organizations, downtowns across the country, and they helped us put together a survey, which we sent out last spring, which some of you may have actually taken. So I'm going to run through some of the results here from that survey. So this is a lot of print on one screen. You also have that here, but I'll just mention a couple things. Our consultant really wanted us to get close to 400 responses. We actually got almost 900. So he said, you definitely have a good sample size. So that was good for us to strive for, and we definitely surpassed it. 82% of the respondents were city residents. 29% work downtown. 73% were women. And 49% ages 25 to 44. And 67% of these people taking this survey had $100,000 income or higher. And so this just gives you a sense of the type of people who were taking the survey and how many. So I'll run through a few of these more drilled down. Of the people who took the survey, you can see there were many places listed, but he only showed us the top 5 in this slide here. But a lot of people taking the survey go to the co-op, no surprise, El Paraiso, Narrative, Shushu, and the public library. And he thought that was important to note that you don't just have a place here that's a retail establishment or dining, you actually have the library listed. 44% of the people said that downtown Everett is improving or making progress. He also noted that if you look at this a little closer, it's more like 80% are saying, hey, it's steady, holding its ground, or it's improving. When he goes around to other towns, he doesn't always have such high marks. So he thought that was very positive for us. Again, a lot of information on one screen here, but some of the takeaways that you'll see when people answered what they would like to see for eating and drinking places downtown, Speakeasy was a top choice, as well as full-service restaurants, ice cream, sweets, breakfast and brunch. And then there was also a section on the right here that shows what they would go to most often, and there's a list of those. Retail establishments, the top ones were bookstore, kitchen and home, clothing, arts and crafts. And again, what this helps us with is that as we go forward, it helps us recruit businesses as well as property owners to see what people would like to see downtown. And then out of this study, we had 106 potential prospects. And these were businesses who were either located near or around downtown who were thinking about expanding, businesses who were thinking about opening a new business, or businesses, or just someone wanting to move their business into downtown. And we actually did track some of the contact information, and we've been able to make some contact with some of these people. And even though this was focused on dining and what people would like to see downtown for dining and retail, we did have some housing questions, which I thought it might be interesting for you to see here. And 58% of the people who responded said 48% said they already live or within a short walk of downtown, and that quite a few people would actually consider living downtown. So there's already a lot of people who are very familiar with the downtown and are living near or around it. And this next slide shows you of those people who were interested in moving into the downtown area, they're either interested in buying a home or renting. And if they're buying, they're thinking about a bit of a larger home or 2-bedroom condos, townhomes. And renters, a lot of them would like to see a 2-bedroom apartment. And again, when people took this survey, they weren't thinking about the 40 square blocks or so, like right around the downtown. They're thinking about probably a half mile to mile within the walking distance of downtown. And then of the people who answered the survey, more would be likely to buy than rent, and that could also have been the demographic that was choosing to take the survey. And more of this information is in your packet here. And then 75% said that downtown is a good place to live and if they would recommend it to their friends. And about 80% said very likely or somewhat likely that they would say downtown Everett area is a good place to live. And then there were some interesting questions we asked about what are we just posed some statements and then they answered. And top of the list is, I like the historic buildings, character, and vibe in downtown Everett. Downtown Everett is a good place to invest. I feel safe and welcome in downtown Everett. Downtown Everett presents a positive image to visitors. Now the three area, you can see down below, it's a little bit of a kind of a flat area, neither agree or disagree. So we're probably scoring higher in the historic character and the vibe, and that it's a good place to invest. And then as far as priorities, what people would like to see focused on the downtown, restoring and preserving the downtown's historic character, more arts and cultural activities in downtown, creating and improving parks and trails, creating more outdoor dining and lounging areas, and improving the downtown streets, sidewalks, lighting, infrastructure. So this is also helpful for us to prioritize both the Downtown Association and the city. And then I think the last slide here is as far as where you would put your business and real estate efforts, recommending redeveloping vacant and underutilized buildings, attracting new eating and drinking places, attracting new retail businesses, and supporting the existing businesses is high, and creating more housing. So I just wanted to end with the survey that came out, again, helped us with our efforts with business support. And this coming year, we are hoping to bring on a staff person who can really focus on business development and retention. So this provides a really good base and foundation for that work.
Question?
Yes.
Are you confident that the outreach that you do, the publicity that you do, that if a potential business or an existing business is somewhere else in the county, say, or in the tri-county area, is thinking about moving, that they would think to come to Everett and that they would think to contact you?
Not yet.
Okay.
Most likely. Maybe some of them would, but we haven't really hung our shingle out there yet like that. And part of it has to do with just having bandwidth, but having a new person on staff this coming year, as well as having this welcome guide and updating our website and having more social media presence, I think we'll get some traction out there. And of course, there's property owners, there's brokers, there's all kinds of people in the real estate business. And we see ourselves as really like a community broker. Like, hey, you're just, first off, you have interest in downtown Everett. We can give you a sense of the place.
And is there a reasonably good, because I know some of these people, what they would want would actually be elsewhere in Everett, and Dan, you'd be more in terms of if they needed manufacturing space,
Oh,
or
sure.
warehouse space, or larger spaces or something like that. Is there are there good handoffs or interactions that way so that there's not something dropped in the seams?
That's a good point. Go ahead, Dan.
Well, I'd say we work really closely together. If someone's looking for a space downtown, because of the database that the Downtown Everett Association has established, and that was one of the prerequisites of the Main Street program, that's something I don't maintain, and it's really a valuable asset. And so I definitely help people, walk them around, do whatever I can, but I really rely on the partners, not only the DEA, but in our commercial brokerage group and the property owners that we know of.
Okay.
So yeah, Tyler more than me now, but Tyler and I confer very closely on these.
Okay.
And I would also say that if someone came to us and they didn't really understand that we were primarily focused on the downtown, we would be able to set them up with Tyler or Dan or connect them. So we're closely working together.
Good. Okay, thank you.
Sure. Any other questions about the survey before I move on? Okay. All right, so you may have heard about the storefront grants. So I want to give you a little bit of a update on that and a background. So in 2022, we hired a consultant called Front Door Back, and they are based out of Vancouver, Washington. And what they do is they go into towns, not just Washington, but actually all over the country, but primarily focused on Washington and Oregon, and they help businesses refresh their storefronts. And so we hired them to give 10 consultations to businesses. And the first thing they did is they put on a workshop, which anyone from the community was open could attend. And then we had a competitive application, and 10 businesses were selected, and they were able to get one-on-one time with these consultants, and then a report was produced. This is an example of Cakewalk Shop. They received one of their consultations, and then they followed through with some of those recommendations. In 2023, we were successful in receiving Everett Forward grants, which they came to us as really a pass-through. So we were able to get a grant for around $50,000 that we were able to grant back to businesses. And we granted to 11 businesses. There's actually still a couple that are just completing, but some of them you may have seen on social media that we gave information about was Petrichor. They did a brand new paint job. Cakewalk was one. They put in new lighting, and they tied together these two spaces and redid their storefronts. And this was a pilot program for us, and we were really interested to see how it would work. A lot of towns do this kind of work, facade improvement programs and whatnot, and we wanted to dip our toes into it and see if we could do it. So fortunately, we're able to continue it this coming year, partly with some of our funds, and then partly from Councilmember Ryan has allocated some of the ARPA funds to the program. And so we will now, actually the application period has just ended, and we'll be working on the selection in January, and we'll be doing 50-50 matching fund grants. So the first round was just, here's the funds, go do the work, but it's more typical to have matching. So for instance, if a business applies for a $5,000 project, or they're going to do a project for $5,000 to repaint their facade, we would, if they're selected, we would match them $2,500. So we're excited about this program, and we'd like to continue doing it year after year. We went to a Main Street conference in Boston, and we learned that there was a group that in Indiana, I can't remember the town, but they're on 160 or 170 grants. So they have been doing these incremental facade projects for some years, and you can really see a difference. So just a few highlights around business support, and tossed in a few public realm improvements. The education series has been successful. We've had some great turnout and some speakers. Again, I mentioned we granted out the storefront grants, more to come in 2024. We're working on these new business welcome kits, which will really help us as we're meeting new businesses when they're coming in. Even a business that's already here that we want to reconnect with, we can use. Ribbon cuttings, we're here to help with that. And coordinating with events. And what I mean by that is making sure that the businesses know, hey, this, Cruise Colby is coming, are you prepared? So not just events we put on, but making sure that they're aware of all the events happening, and working closely with Tyler and Kari at the city on that. And then we're continuing to do our annual shopping guide. And so a few highlights from the public realm. This year we've been doing the flower program for a few years, and we have not done flower baskets because it is a lift. It's a big effort to maintain and water those hanging baskets. But we decided to try something, so we purchased what's called earth planters. They're self-watering. They hold water in them. So we purchased a dozen of those or so, and we put them around Colby and Hewitt to see what it would take. Like what does it actually take, to water these? And they did well. I think they were a little too high for us to reach, but we're going to try it again this year and put them on the lower street poles. And then if we feel like we're doing well and confident about it, we can try to expand the hanging baskets. This year we were able to add another block of holiday lights. And just as a refresher on that, in 2020, our design committee and our organization was asking, how come we don't have holiday lights? And we were told that, some years ago, 12, 15 years ago, there had been holiday lights around downtown, but the power had been cut because of vandalism and maintenance. And you may have known that the outlets had been on the ground, so they were easily tampered with. And so through some creative thinking, Public Works was able to add outlets on those very tall gooseneck lights. And then we raised funds to purchase those large snowflakes. So that was great, and we had those up, and we thought, now, what if we had power on all those old historic street poles throughout the downtown, like many cities do? And so we thought, okay, well, let's just do one block, see how it works, see if we can pull it off. And we were able to get a donation from Valley Electric. They donated their time and materials. They put in outlets on one block of street poles, and then we were able to decorate the lights, or decorate the trees with lights. So this year, Valley Electric said, okay, we'll keep doing a block a year for about 3 years. Like, okay, great. So my hope is that there could be more funds to really continue, like going down Hewitt and Rucker and other places, because I think it's a simple thing, an outlet, but it makes huge difference. So more to come on that, but hoping to see some funds go toward that infrastructure this coming year. And then we were able to add some more of those street pole banners this past year as well, and that's been important for placemaking and letting people know, like, here's downtown Everett, here we are, it's taken care of, it's vibrant, it's colorful. And last slide, just want to mention a few things we're working on this coming year. The second round of storefront grants, we're going to have a person focused on business development retention, and they will work very closely with Tyler Chisholm and Dan's office. We will be able to do tours for prospective businesses, continue the education series, and more ribbon cuttings because we know that some businesses are already coming. And I'll just mention one. You may have seen the sign for Tacos and Beer on Hewitt, and they're out of Ballard, so this is their second location, and so that's exciting. And we're hearing rumors of a few more businesses, and also working to support our existing businesses. Again, hoping to have some additional holiday lights and pet waste stations. That's we've had the dog waste, pet waste stations in storage for the last 6 months or so, and we're working getting the private property owners to sign off, and then we'll be installing those pet waste stations. So another sign that people are taking care of the downtown.
Yeah, I was gonna say, it kind of corresponds a little with the bathrooms we're talking about putting in,
Yes.
making downtown a little more accessible for people, a little more friendly for people to come in
Exactly.
and spend some real time.
Yeah. I think that concludes my presentation. Thank you.
Great, thank you, Liz. For the streetlight outlets, I wonder if there's a way to make it a competition of which local electrical company can install the most outlets downtown.
That's a good idea, and again, I have to give a big shout out to Valley Electric because they really got it, and we actually approached them to find out how much it would cost, and they came back to us and said, why don't we just do it?
That's super amazing. That's amazing, and just a good reminder of just the community that is in Everett and how proud we are of this city.
We could do some recognition signage or something, a little thing saying,
idea.
supported by Valley Electric.
Snowflake that says VB on it.
And my electrical engineer father would point out that it's not as straightforward to add an outlet onto a public street light because it's not just 110 voltage that's running that. So it's got to have a transformer and all sorts of different things. So
Good.
I will just throw out a number. When we asked them what their contribution was in time and materials, they thought it was about $7,500 a block.
Wow,
So
that's amazing.
it's significant.
I did have a question. So if we hear through the grapevine of businesses that's maybe looking to expand or start up, what would ourselves or community members, what should we do with that information?
I mean, I think it kind of depends on like where in the city. So I think if they don't even quite know, they just want to be in Everett somewhere, they probably would go to Tyler or to Dan. If they know they really want to be in downtown, you could direct them to us. But I think it's a combination, but someone will definitely take their call and talk to them and find out more.
yeah, and I'll just say that it's not like I, as director of economic development, know everything about business or startups or anything, but we do keep track of different resources that are available, and a lot of times we just triage in a sense, have a conversation with them, and then send them where is appropriate, because we have a lot of resources in the county and in the region as well as in the real state level, or just a networking opportunity to talk to somebody. So lots of different opportunities there. I discourage a lot of people from starting restaurants unless they're really serious about it, because it's a difficult business that sometimes people bite off. So anyway, don't want to go there right now. But so I thank you. I'm doing a little development update, and for this I was trying to think what would be useful, and I thought, well, why don't I just talk about all the different developments in town that I have at least touched and spent time on and spent resources on. Now, sometimes when I've done a development update, I've focused on those who have just opened in a year, and I'm not going to do that today. I'm really going to talk about things, and so some of these we'll be talking about, they've been open now for maybe up to a year. A lot of others are just in the pipeline somewhere, and we've been discussing them and moving forward. So it's a lot. As you can see from my map, I'm going to use Google Earth and go through this, and I just arranged them via category. So let's start with retail and dining, and feel free to slow me down if I'm going too fast, and if you start to get dizzy, I'm sorry about that. I think we have to start with the demalling of Everett Mall. As you know, the Brixton that's owned that has been moving forward with a lot of different changes triggered by a lot of just macroeconomic things going on in the country. But that's a big one that we continue to work with. Trader Joe's is going to be located in kind of the north end of the old Sears building, we know, and they've got that building pretty much filled up. Chick-fil-A, unrelated to Everett Mall, but they took the space right next to it, and now they are open and doing really well. They hired 120 people for their opening, and interestingly, they had a really, what they thought was a pretty easy time. They had a lot of people who said that they were within walking distance that applied and were very excited about working, because right now they had to commute to jobs, and now they had a place that they didn't have to.
Well, and I guess I'd note while you're on Chick-fil-A that talking to the operator there, they had a fairly easy time working with Everett, easier than other
That's
places.
great to hear.
So
Always good.
They were happy, and it wasn't just ease, it was faster timing. It was opening sooner, being a contribution to the neighborhood and the economy sooner, like maybe by more than a year that it would have been if it would have been difficult to deal with.
They
So-
had some delays at the end, and I had to point out that was Snohomish County, not Everett. But yeah, it was good, and I'm kind of kidding. So early in the year, not really though. Early in the year, we had grand opening for a development that includes Sonic Burger, Glint Car Wash, and Woods. That's right at the intersection of Everett Mall and Evergreen. Moving down more downtown, the Riverfront commercial you heard recently and took action on the development agreement to allow the theater to change to a entertainment / restaurant / pickleball center, and that is only the kind of the large anchor tenant there. There will be several tenants and dining opportunities there. I worked with QFC on Broadway. It was sold to a developer that I know very well, and he bought it partly speculation to redevelop, and that's happened very quietly, but he's somebody I worked with in Shoreline, and it was fun to work with him again. Just recently in the news, and I'm not going to recognize every business that is out there, but Black Forest Mushrooms had a really wonderful grand opening, and Nathaniel is really a go-getter, and we're looking forward to working with him. Luca is one that a lot of us at City Hall have enjoyed dining at. It's one that was just a transition. Somebody retired, and very quickly another restaurant came in and took over. One that I think we all have been anxious to see more happen to is, some people call it Farmers Market, some people call it the Grand Avenue Apartments. The official name is Waterline now. That was one that we worked with over several years because the ownership of that was really, I'll just say, a mess because of the way that it was structured and how everything kind of came together. And because of that, there were a lot of owners of commercial condos who all had a say in what happened there. And it just made it very awkward, and then it went into receivership, and so we were dealing with federal judges and receivers and everything. So happy to say, at least now, there seems like there's much more forward motion, and they're starting to lease up space more successfully, and there's a yoga studio that opened there, and there's a climbing studio that's having issues but is opening there as well.
So Waterline Commercial is sort of the property, and then there are a bunch of,
Well, Waterline Commercial, I'm just referring to the bottom floor
Oh,
that has had some big vacancies for a long time. Yeah, so Waterline, all the purple ones are this retail dining, commercial
yeah,
kind of
Waterline is just not
storefront.
the branding for any of those.
That's
not the
right,
public
yeah,
branding.
that's
okay.
right, you're right. It's just it now is owned by one owner that's out of the Bay Area, and they own properties up and down the West Coast that are mixed-use properties like this. And
Well, part of the reason I pay attention to this is that from the district that I'm in, we are far enough south, so much of us. I mean, people are familiar with the Everett Mall, but when you go to the southeast part of the city, there are a bunch of stores, there are a bunch of
Right.
residents, different kinds of things there. Unless we could make more of an effort so that those people are coming north to shop than they are going south. You know, because Everett is a long city, 15 miles from north to south.
Right.
And we're only 19 miles from the UW. So I want to attract as much of that north as I can
Yeah, that's.
and make people aware of it.
Excellent points. Another one that you're probably familiar with in is Apex, which is the museum, and then the 1611, the restaurant that has come into a long ignored but wonderful space. And we now, we're all just hoping for the best of success and long-term health of this organization that has a really unique collection of urban art, and as well as it's been called the El Gaucho of Everett, and I think that's deserved. And of course,
I'm going to interject super quick to it for a good of the order mention
good.
that 1611 now has happy hour. So just
and it's
file that under good to know.
and I would say very happy hour. Yeah. The next thing, the port has done a great job of advertising all the different things that are going on there, and I'll just say Waterfront Place to be the whole umbrella that includes Muse and Fisherman Jack's and South Fork Bakery and Sound to Summit Brewery and Woods Coffee and so on and so forth. So lots of great things going on at the port. Like I said, that I could go on with that, but let's go over to housing, and I think this is kind of interesting. We'll go back down to the south end, and these are going to be yellow now, and we'll start off with the Devco Four Corners property, which is 450 plus units, and will be a very large units as well as a large property, and that's right on the old Kmart site, as those who have been around. That's a pretty big one. I can't remember the developer's name on this. I just call it the Skate Deck Townhomes. I'm sure that's not the name, but you get the idea, and most people know what I'm talking about, right next to Winco. Riverfront Housing now, which I put right next to the Riverfront Commercial. They're open now, and people have been moving in, and in the first month, they had, I think, over 50 move-ins, so that's very rapid pace, but the first phase was about 300 and, boy, I can't remember exactly, 65 units or something like that in the two buildings. The second building, I'm not sure is open yet, but so exciting to see that moving forward. That's been an effort that has been on all of our work plans for a long time, but we just have to stop and, pat ourselves on the back a little bit, because this was a dump, literally, and then a tire fire site, and it's just been transformed into something pretty wonderful down there. And so it's just very exciting, great partner and shelter. These projects, I just will point out, look at how many we have on Pacific here. None of these are under construction yet. All of these are somewhere in permitting. Right now,
This is residential.
these are all residential. These are all multi-story residential properties that are at least probably 80 units, but probably more like 100 plus. So Groundhog Smith, Oaks, Devco, Rockefeller, Scottdale, Wetmore, Groundhog, Rutger, okay, that one wasn't on Pacific, it's a block off, and then Devco, Rutger. So all of these, zooming out here, you can see this line of development, and we were all anticipating this with Metro Everett. It took a little longer than I thought, but when people came to my office, I said, you really look just south of Pacific. That's really going to be a dynamic area. It's going to be long-term, really healthy with the light rail. So, the salesmanship, sometimes they're talking to developers, but then you also have somebody like Devco who has had success in Everett, and once they have success and they've worked with the team, that makes that next project that much easier. So, they are currently working on 3 different projects at least that we know about in the city of Everett.
And pretty much all the ones we've talked about here, except for the skate deck townhomes, are rentals. And I
That's
guess
right.
I'm always on the lookout, because I'm happy to have that,
Yeah.
not at all unappreciative of that. I guess from talking to the people who want to own the townhomes, that continues to be a sticky thing, and I guess, and condominiums, which would offer us some options in some of those areas that we don't currently have, still a very slow thing. Are there any things that we can do from the city standpoint?
I mean, we will still be advocating for condominium reform and things that can make that a more viable option for developers. You know, the riverfront and the skate deck townhomes are both ownership opportunities, obviously. Those developers that, you know, the ones kind of up and down Pacific, that's not necessarily their model. Like they build rentals. But yeah, so anyways, condo reform piece, and then I think there is a person in my old job focused on housing, and he's been doing a lot of outreach to the development community and both market and affordable housing providers to.
Right.
Yeah, part of the reason I think about the condos is it gives us an ability, that the townhomes are one element, but they are a certain type in terms of density and occupancy. And so what
Yeah.
would be nice is if we could have the higher density that we get otherwise. And I guess I'll try to think about this also. Is there just anything the city can do? Because I know insurance and financing are some of the other
Right.
aspects of that, and I know they're affected by the state laws, so you already knew that was a priority of mine for state activity. I guess we'll try to think if there's anything else that the city.
Yeah, it's not a city issue. I'll just say that. It's a larger issue, and it's probably state and/or federal to get this. However, having said that, if the dynamic changes, a lot of these could easily be converted to for sale opportunities. There's nothing about the structure of the building
Okay.
that precludes it from being an ownership to going condo.
Okay.
So that, you know, in my mind, the important thing is to get the investment made. I mean, these are $100 million, $200 million buildings sometimes. And to get that in the city, literally these people are building more Everett. You know, every multi-story building, you know, if you think it's got a 100,000 square foot floor plate and they put 5 of them, we've just added 500,000 feet to the city.
Yeah.
You know, and so all of that gets taxed, all of that pays property tax, and so it's definitely something that is positive overall. I totally agree with you. I was in commercial development. I built 2 condos and we got sued twice. Neither one of them had any problems that we hadn't fixed or whatever. But it's just the climate right now. And when developers have long memories,
Yeah.
and they are very risk adverse. And so to be able to build something and hold it and, you know, experience the gain, it's very attractive. But I don't think it's a forever thing. But I do think it's not a city problem so
Well, and
much.
one of the things that I've heard from the people who are fronting a lot of this money is that it's kind of a chicken and egg thing in terms of the attractions, the resale, the downtown, that
Right.
sort of thing. So that you want the kind of attractive place and businesses which can attract people to want to live there, but with more people living there, that often is the first thing, which gives
Yeah.
the base for the business to build on. So I guess that's one thing we can do, is make sure that we foster this both directions, and if we make it an attractive enough place, then perhaps those condo conversions
Yeah.
can.
And I will say too that, you know, there's always the catch-22 of being economic development. So if you're successful, you create traffic problems, you create parking problems, and people get priced out of markets.
Yeah.
But in a climate where the prices have escalated so much, then you can build steel and concrete buildings, and those don't have the liability issues. So in a downtown Bellevue or a downtown Seattle, for example, you could build a form that would be not litigation proof, but it would, but to build that level, you have to be selling then at about $1,000 a square foot. So, you know, you're talking about 1,000 square unit for $1 million. And so that's at this point, Everett, thankfully isn't there.
Yeah.
We're much more affordable than that.
And I'll just remind, you guys know this, but Devco's model, those buildings that they're building are generally 100% affordable to folks that make on average 60% AMI, because they're using tax credit financing usually. And then probably all the others that are in that, well, now it's applicable citywide, but certainly the Metro Everett buildings are probably using the multifamily tax exemption, so they're providing, 10 or 20% of their units.
That's right.
At 80% average median income or lower, so, yeah.
Okay.
Well, I better press on because I got a lot of dots to hit.
Well, while we're on the topic of affordability, just a general out in the ether comment that I would support any efforts by the city to look into community land trusts and the community land trust models
Sure.
to help with first-time home buyers and just preserving affordability for
Yeah,
lower-income people.
I didn't put this on there, but we also are having conversations with some creative groups that one of them that makes an ownership opportunity through the co-op ownership for trailer parks, and we're looking at possibly doing something like that, which would, we have some, and it would be a really
We have some
interesting.
great manufactured home communities in the city, so.
We really do. So thank you for using the right words. The next one is the Everett Housing Authority Park District that we've spent a lot of staff resources supporting. That one I haven't personally worked on as much as some of the other ones, but it's obviously a big dynamic project. And then LPC is moving forward and down at the waterfront with something that will be similar to the waterfront place, the Waterline, right? Waterline apartments that are already there. They set records for rent in Everett, and that has attracted a lot of interest. And so if you go down to the port right now, you see a lot of construction. That's really the infrastructure lane that will then support both the office and residential development. So I don't think I missed any of the housing ones that I've worked with. So let's go on to industry, which I think is super fun. And I did green because a lot of the ones that you'll see have a real emphasis in green manufacturing or green energy or green something or other. Of course, the big kahuna is the 737 line that Boeing announced recently that they will be bringing to Everett. And that's exciting for a couple different reasons. One is it'll be the first single aisle plane that is built in Everett. And in my mind, our long-term goal has to continue to be to land, pardon the pun, the new market airplane, that the next one, whatever it is, 797 or 727 or what, I have no idea what number if they'll christen it or something, but that one we want built in Everett, but it will likely be a single aisle. A little bit outside of Everett, but obviously we've worked a lot with Propeller Airports and Payne Field. Not only are we all enjoying the commercial level, but if you happen to have your own private airplane, they also purchased Castle and Cooke, and they're doing a great job converting that and upgrading that, which, for those people in the region or organizations or companies that have private airplanes, they're getting pushed out a lot of the airports to the south, and so that provides a great opportunity. Right out there at Payne Field is also Zero Avia, which is a fuel cell hydrogen aviation innovator that's located in Everett, Finland, and England, and they are partnering with Alaska Airlines to do some amazing things. It's fantastic stuff. Soundview Campus is a brand new building that is almost getting its occupancy and will be leasing up. That's a very large campus, those three buildings on the end of the road there. And I'm looking forward, I have the mayor booked for a tour of that in January, so it's very exciting. That's a group out of Vancouver, British Columbia that's been working on that since I've been working at the city of Everett 5.5 years ago. TerraPower, we continue to support them. They're doing both nuclear medicine and fission, building the first of a kind plant in Wyoming. Right next to it's Magnax that is doing electric aviation, mostly battery generator rather than hydrogen fuel cell. SNBL is a Japanese company that has been in Everett for decades and decades, and they had a big property, and it's right next to Narbeck Wetland Sanctuary, and it's been a super challenging project just because of some of the stormwater issues and surface water issues and so forth. And but we've been working closely with them, and they're moving forward. Behind them, Zap Energy has been in Everett and Mukilteo, but they got a new facility in Everett, and we landed them here, and they moved into a new, larger area, which, since they raised $160 million this year, that allowed them to pick one, I think. Helion Energy is the other fusion company that is along with Zap. And Helion took this existing space and then built another warehouse that they are building the Polaris prototype fusion power generator. But they also needed another space, so they're going to be erecting a metal building on this space that we were able to respond to them very quickly and get that up and running. They're really excited. Both of these companies are super exciting, and the potential for what they're doing is pretty amazing. SmartCap is building right next to, they purchased some property from Achilles, which is another Japanese plastic manufacturer, and they're basically done. That's 167,000 square feet, and they're leasing that up. So really, for the first time since I've been working here, we actually have a couple of new spec projects that are coming online, and we have warehouse space. And so for a while, the distribution companies, especially during the pandemic, were just, I'll just say, overpaying for everything industrial, and they were pushing some of the manufacturing and other companies kind of around or out, and that has changed. The people aren't buying online in the same way they did during the pandemic, and so some of their prognosticating has changed. One of the really exciting companies that developments that is, starting to talk about temporary occupancy permit is the CGen pharmaceutical manufacturing building that is close to being done, and you can see, Google Earth is picking it up. It looks pretty done, but it's not yet. This is really our first health science manufacturing facility, and a lot of that has been down in the Canyon Park area in Bothell, but it's, for lack of a better word, it's pretty full. It's built out. And so we're very excited about the potential of attracting more. In fact, that SNBL that I mentioned sounds like that might be a second really large influential company. CGen was the Seattle biomedical company that was worth more than all the other ones combined in Seattle. But it recently sold to Pfizer, and so that's why I have that kind of parentheses there. So I think it'll probably be I don't know if it'll be branded as CGen or Pfizer.
Just great example of the way Everett is changing. That was a sand and gravel and concrete business
Yep.
for so many years.
That's right.
And now it's the highest of high tech.
Yeah. Well, let's move on to a couple other notables. These didn't really fall into any exact category. Snow 911 is the Snohomish County emergency response, what do you call them, people who send people out. They've been a tenant, dispatch, that's the word thank you very much. They've been a tenant in the South Precinct, but they are building their own facility, and we were very excited to keep them in Everett. They were looking far and wide in Snohomish County, but we had some advantages and that we were kept them. Kaiser Permanente obviously is doing a major expansion. I almost forgot to put them and I felt terrible after that. I've worked, yeah, well, I just, it's a pretty long list. Compass Health obviously is tearing down its building.
It's gone now.
Is gone now, and they're working on their new supportive housing project there. Everett Community College has really one of the prettiest, coolest libraries you'll ever go in, and I think they call it a learning center because it has so many things beyond a library. The Smith Island Terminal is one that is a really interesting regional development that is working to use, it's really the Cedar Grove people that have extra property and they're looking to do a railroad terminal to have a place in Everett that you could load and unload and get onto the track. Right now, the Delta Yard only reconfigures trains. You don't load and unload on it. And then, of course, your favorite and mine, Dick's Drive-In, which is technically not in Everett, but that won't stop us from meeting there. Last category, and this is a sadder one, the red ones, these are casualties. And these are ones that, I probably could have listed a number of them, but there's the Starbucks on, I'll say, South Evergreen Way, right next to the Walmart. Frankly, the Walmart I don't feel quite as badly about because we had another Walmart and I felt like it was always kind of an odd duck. Walmart wise, it didn't really fit their categories. So I think there's been a lot of interest in redeveloping that from a lot of different areas, but still both of those. But the Starbucks in South Evergreen and the Starbucks right at the end of Casino, which hasn't really announced that they're completely closing, but it seems like they've stopped operations there. Both were casualties of just really challenging street violence and incidents that we worked with Starbucks really closely, and I was so impressed with how much data they keep, how well they train their employees, but they could give us real specific reasons and how many incidences these stores were experiencing. And even with the Everett Police and in some cases the Snohomish Sheriff's Office really doing some special emphasis and doing everything we could, they still just found it untenable to keep those open. So those are things that we just have to address going forward because it just makes a challenging business environment. So that was a whirlwind. It is 5:55. I felt like I did pretty well getting under the time limit, but if you've got any other questions, I'm happy to answer those or comments.
Maybe a good thing to bring a shorter version before the entire council from time to time. I feel like it's, with all the other things going on in a city this size, it's easy to miss parts of this,
Right.
and we should all be ambassadors for our city and be capable of at least aiming people in the right direction and spotting opportunities and showing them
Absolutely.
that from the leadership standpoint, we're really encouraging this kind of thing.
I think that I do three things primarily. That's build systems that can support growth, and I use the metaphor of tomato cages that you have to put in before the tomato starts really growing. I support businesses that provide opportunities for jobs and different varieties, and then I do placemaking. And I will just, I didn't say this during Liz's presentation, but it's so exciting to see Liz here and the Downtown Everett Association. That was something that we recognized early in the mayor's administration, how important the downtown was, and we invested in encouraging the DEA to apply for the Main Street membership, which was a 2-year process. But it's done so much, and now we have this infrastructure that is doing things that we could never have done. You know, it's going beyond what we could have done. They're supporting businesses just like we wanted to support businesses, and they're doing so much placemaking. So they're doing all those things. So the fourth kind of umbrella thing that I do is storytelling. So I'll just tell the story. Yay, DEA.
More housing, sounds like the one thing we're going to continue to need is housing for all these people.
That's right.
And Everett will continue to be one of these cities where it gets much bigger in the day.
That's right. Well, and from the very start of my time here, I said, you know, really downtown Everett needs 5,000 more residents to really activate the street level. And it's exciting for me to see all these Pacific residential, I mean, that's close to 1,000 units, and if you figure probably about 2.1 people per unit, which is kind of the general average, and about one dog per unit, one half of a dog per unit, which is about right. Every other unit has a dog, pretty much.
We're getting ahead of things with those petway stations.
Exactly. I mean, honestly, that's it. They need services. But that's exciting. That's 2,000 residents if all those get built out that are added to our downtown core, and it's very exciting.
I agree. Great. Any last thoughts, questions, comments, concerns?
Thank you.
Great. Thank you both so much for sharing the good news. I feel like in this holiday season and all the merriment going on, it's great to hear all these great things about going on in Everett that we could celebrate. So thank you both for being here today. And with that, it is 5:58 and we're adjourned.